everybody, and welcome to this very special edition of the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Ali.
I'm Sarah.
And we are joined with our very special guest,
Crystal from Find Her Football.
One of these days we'll get that right.
We will get it ready. We will get it ready. So we are joined with Crystal for these very special episodes going through the groups of the World Cup. But first, Crystal, let's hit up what is Find Your Football.
Find Her Football brings visibility to women's soccer, and we're just trying to continue the conversation with great contributors like you guys. So I really appreciate you guys having me.
We're happy to do it. I want to also just highlight real quick that if you go to Find Her Football's Instagram, there is a downloadable schedule that will link onto your calendar, and it has all of the women's soccer games, and it'll just link onto your calendar. Yeah, it's sick. So you don't have to be Googling every single day. Just a shout out.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Will it change times?
Yes.
So if I download it, will I get UK times?
Yep. For sure.
That's what people need to know. That's what you need to know, is that it will tell you where you are, where you can watch women's football.
What leagues does it have in it, Crystal?
The leagues, National Women's Soccer League, Champions League, and the World Cup. Just a little disclaimer though, I did sync up the broadcasting channels for the US, since I don't actually have the visibility for Europe. But
that's okay. It's TBD if they'll even get the stream out there.
Yeah, it's true.
Just kidding. You guys will get it. All right. Should we do it?
Yes. So we are hitting up with Group C, which is Spain, Costa Rica, Zambia, and Japan. I said before recording, I think this could be a wild card group. And Sarah was like, you're wrong.
I said you're crazy, actually.
And I question our friendship. But I question that daily, so it's fine.
Well, I guess over the course of this, we will figure out why you think it's a wild card and why I certainly don't. And I'm just going to add, I don't think it's a wild card, but I'm very interested in this group.
I think it's a wild card because we know what Spain can do and they haven't been doing. We know what Japan can do and haven't been doing. And through our own fault, we know nothing about African football. We know nothing. So, as we saw with Cameroon last World Cup and how they progressed and how they took on European nations, I think Zambia could be, that team where you don't know what team you're going to get. And when we get onto them, they've got one of the greatest African players of all time.
Truly. I fell in love with her during the Olympics, Barbara
Exactly.
Banda.
Exactly.
Just an absolute superstar.
Exactly.
But look,
so
you make some good points, Allie. You do. You make some good points. You make some good points. I certainly hope you're right, because I think with every World Cup, everybody's just kind of like, I want it. You can't not root for an African nation. You just want them to go far. And I feel like Costa Rica has a similar type of underdog mentality. So, hey, I hope you're right. I think that Spain and Japan are not as kind of waffly as you think that they are.
Oh, I don't know.
But let's go on to it. Let's start with Spain.
This is the team that's been the most inconsistent because of outside factors.
The thing is, it's funny because we're talking about inconsistency so much. I feel like when it comes down to it, those are hard words to place on every team, because every team's going to have some wins, it's going to have some losses. I don't necessarily find their results inconsistent, but I do agree that there's a question mark around them because of their personnel. However, I think that the personnel that they're left with is still super strong, but we can't talk about them without talking about the 15 players that they're going to be missing from this World Cup and how that's going to be impacting them.
Exactly. That's the problem. And will their background noise, like we've seen with France, affect how Spain perform in this World Cup? Because background noise makes a big thing.
I agree. It does. Let's just list some of these players who are going to be out. I think I won't list all 15, but some of the key players who are part of the 15 that said that they were not going to play under Jorge Vilda, and they will play if he is sacked. Those weren't specifically their words. Mape Leon, Bonmati, Unya Battle, Lucia Garcia. I want to note though, maybe this is just a question for both of you. Do you guys know what's going on with Alexia Putellas? Because she didn't sign that like her signature's not on that letter, but she did like retweet, repost that letter. Every time she talks about the 15 players who aren't going to play for Jorge, she uses the we. She says we. She says, we're not rebels. We don't like being referred to as that. Like, let's reframe this. But her name's not on that. Is she going to be a part of this roster?
I think with Alexia, the problem was she didn't know if she was going to be fit in time.
Yeah.
She's only just got back to playing, so there's no point in counting yourself out of something that you may not be in the first place. I think the fact she plays for Barcelona, and it is being framed, it's not this the case at all, but it's being framed as Catalonia versus Spain.
Right, which it's not.
It's not at all, but that's the way the Spanish media, the Spanish Football Association are framing it. It's Catalonia versus Spain.
Yeah.
The fact she plays for Barcelona, which is a Catalonian team, probably would count her out. But the thing is, you can't count yourself out of something if you can't guarantee you're going to be in it.
Yeah, well, that's why it's so hard to determine right now, because we all assumed when she didn't sign it, it was because she had just torn her ACL. She's not going to be available. Yep. It seems like she did the same thing. And I mean, Allie, we've spent ages talking about this entire story, and why the Real Madrid players feel that they can't sign that they have to play for Jorge Vilda, who has ties to Real Madrid. So thus it does become a lot of the Barcelona players. But nonetheless, you look at Spain's starting lineup. I mean, the U.S. played Spain right after this news dropped, and Spain destroyed the U.S.
Also, you use the US as this marker stick. Let's be honest. The US had a really crap run.
Yeah, it's true.
For a while after the Olympics and onwards. So therefore, that is not a yardstick to measure Spain. Because who wasn't beating the US at that time? If they face the US now and they beat them, then you could say, yeah, that is something.
Sure.
But at the time, you guys were not at your best. You were not at your 2019 World Cup winning squad level.
Okay, we need to stop using that as a marker too. That's a pretty ridiculous marker. Well, you guys weren't at the peak that you ever were at in the history of the USA. That's not the marker. First of all, we're not talking about the US. I mean, look, Spain did beat Norway. Yeah, that's true. Spain beat Norway 4-2 in April. I want to mention that Paredes, Jenny, Del Castillo, Hermoso, they're still part of this lineup, and these are key players for Spain. But I think it's important to also bring in, and my main point for Spain, every time we talk about Spain in tournaments, look, we always, especially in the history, especially in women's soccer, we have to go back to the history, because we have to remember that Spain has had a really quick ascent to the top, but it has not been very many years since they've been, a powerhouse of women's soccer. And they do not have a history of doing well in tournaments. They've only spent a few years being, like I said, a quote unquote powerhouse. And within those years, they haven't done well. Their first qualification for a World Cup was in 2015.
Are they, though? Are they a powerhouse? Are we, and I'm going to direct this at both of you now, are we conflating the success that Barcelona have had with the Spanish national team?
I don't think we're conflating the success of Barcelona. What I think we're doing is conflating their potential to what they've actually been able to do. Because I think we all see the potential of the Spanish national team and that they could very well win a World Cup. That's the truth. They have that talent. They have that potential. But they haven't played like that in a major tournament ever. I think that we have our answer for that question. And I think it points to the man in charge who only got his job because of his dad, and he's the reason 15 players don't want to play. I think definitely a coaching change for Spain could bring them to the level that we all see the potential for them to be at. What do you think, Allie?
Yeah, for sure. I do think the problem is, and we're seeing it with France, we saw it with England before Serena, that if you don't have that guy or woman or whoever at the top that you trust and want to play for, you won't play.
Yep. Frankly, Spain did have a pretty good Euros. They did end up, they did lose to England, but England obviously went on to win the Euros. And I didn't think that Spain underachieved in terms of how they played. Did you think so, Allie?
Yeah, because they gave us a really good game in the quarters. Like, I can't say that it was a walkover for England because I was convinced that we were going out at that stage.
Yep,
with the way they play. But
but they had all of those 15 players in the Euros.
The problem is the fact that he's been coaching them since 2015. And the thing is, Spain don't seem to like to change their manager. They've only had 4 since they were created in 71. And most of them have coached for a minimum of 9 years. The guy before Vilda coached them for nearly 20 years. Over 20 years, sorry. Nearly 30 years. And then we got Vilda.
So you both think that they have inconsistent results. I think that they're a question mark because the squad that we're seeing is going to be a squad that has frankly only been playing together really for like a year because all of this news kind of came out a year ago. So bringing in some young players that don't have the experience and it's a big stage, but quite frankly, I think that they're in the right group for that. This is the right group for them to succeed past the group stage, get their footing in the group stage and move on. Another big point for Spain, and something that I think a lot of, when you watch Spain play, I think a lot of broadcasters hang their hats on this, is they'll dominate 70% of possession, but they won't score.
You look at their stats under Velda, they have a plus 227 goal difference in all of the matches that they've played. So they can put it away. They can. I genuinely think the problem is they're unhappy, and unhappy players don't give results. That's the problem.
Let's say something to make people excited to watch Spain.
The players they have are insane. The players they do have are like, they play a very specific way of football, which is a very Spanish style, and anybody that watches La Liga will know the Spanish style of football. And it's exciting. It's fast. It's frantic.
It's fun.
It's fun, exactly. All of the Fs. And they play that way. And so, therefore, it's exciting to always watch Spain because you never know what kind of game you're going to get. So, the second team in this group is Costa Rica. They've had a mixed level of results in their build-up to the World Cup. This is only their second ever appearance. And we love an underdog. We, as human beings, we love an underdog. So let's talk about Costa Rica.
Yeah, this is a team that I'm excited to watch because, especially I feel like here in, you know, the Western Hemisphere and the CONCACAF region, if you will.
I was going to say, like you guys know them more.
We've gotten to see them play quite a bit. And if you look back on their results, so there are like regional qualifiers and then there's World Cup qualifiers, right? So regional qualifiers to get into the World Cup qualifiers happened. And the way that they performed was pretty unreal. They won all 4 games. They scored 22 goals and they let in 0 goals. This is a team that can score. In their World Cup qualifying round, they beat Panama. I know you two, we already did Group A. You two love Panama, so put that in your pocket. They beat Panama 3-0, ended up losing to the U.S. in semis, but they only exited their group second behind Canada. And the thing with this team is that they're a team that can score. They can really put it away. And as their qualifier results indicate, they can be a lockdown defense. But I feel like there's just like an inflection point for them where they're a lockdown defense until they hit a team can put away a lot of goals, and it kind of turns into a shootout and they lose it. So this is where I don't think that this group is a wild card.
But do all 4 teams have to be a wild card to make it a wild card group?
You think Zambia is the wild card?
Yes! Again, case in point, Cameroon last World Cup. No one
I
saw them.
I know you said that. You said that at the beginning.
No one saw them get in that way.
We'll come on to Zambia, but I guess I'll say I don't think Costa Rica is a wild card team in this group. I think that we know how they play. They'll be fun to watch. They'll put away some goals, and I think that they'll give some teams a run for their money. I mean, and that's kind of. I'm trying to sound positive here, but I'm doing a really bad job. I just think that's it.
The thing is, though, you're basing it off of them playing against a specific set of teams because CONCACAF is very specific. It's a specific region. This is what the fun of the World Cup is because you mix so many different regions together. So we don't know what Costa Rica's going to do against a Spain. You can guess.
This is fun then.
But we don't know because the Costa Rica style of play is very different to how Spain play. How Japan plays, that's the one I'm excited for. Costa Rica versus Japan.
I would agree that if I'm picking out a team, I'm picking out a game for Costa Rica to potentially upset, it's Japan.
Because
hands
they
down.
play.
Why do you pick that out?
Because they play Japan play very conservatively. They have done for the last few teams that we've seen. And that can work for Costa Rica because, as we said, they can keep a clean sheet. So if they can keep that clean sheet and then go on the counter, Japan, we have seen, don't deal well with the counter. They crumble. Their defence doesn't know what to do. And they've never come across a team like that because we're seeing in the Asian Cup very similar style of play. Like I said, the excitement of the World Cup is bringing the different regions of the world and how they play.
I totally agree with you, and I can completely see that. And to play a little devil's advocate, even though I hate that term, let's just say this: you're coming at it from that side. I see it that way too. I think that Japan, a team that doesn't put away a lot of goals, versus Costa Rica, a team that can keep a clean sheet. This could be potentially a game that Costa Rica can maybe take 3 points away. On the other hand, Japan is potentially a more organized defensive team than Costa Rica has ever seen. You want to talk about different styles of play. Costa Rica has probably not come up against the organization of the full 11 that Japan plays defense with. They have not come across that in CONCACAF. CONCACAF, like you said, it's very up and down. It's very back and forth, kind of NWSL style, right? Just a lot of back and forth. And they haven't seen a team as organized in the back as Japan. So yes, they can keep a clean sheet, but does that then nullify their goal scoring ability? This is why we love the World Cup.
Exactly. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
I am excited for Shirley Cruz.
I forgot
it might be her last World Cup.
Yes.
And Rocky Rodriguez.
Rocky Rodriguez is going to be, like, if we want to call out some people who are going to have a moment on the big stage for the first time, I think Rocky Rodriguez is absolutely one of them, which is really fun because then there's two in this group with Barbara and Rocky Rodriguez.
I don't have a lot to say. I'm just saying that this, for me, when I look at how the other groups are like set out, this for me is the one that I'm like, I don't know. I reckon I can guess who, and we'll get to it, but I can guess who's going to top the group. But after that, I'm like, it's anybody's.
Because it's such different styles.
Exactly. And it's literally going to come down to the 90 minutes.
It's a team from Asia versus a team from Europe versus a team from Africa versus a team from Central America. It is just completely different styles.
Exactly.
Ooh,
exactly that.
Who's excited for this group?
That's going to be fun.
See, I'm building you up. I'm hyping you up. You come right to my way thinking.
All right. Let's move on to Japan. Speaking of, we just spent a lot of time talking about Costa Rica versus Japan. Let's talk about Japan. I love talking about Japan because of their storied history here in women's soccer on the international stage and otherwise. For those who don't remember, they won the 2011 World Cup at home in Japan. It was a monumentous moment for them. They ended up losing the following year in the Olympics in the final to the U.S. And obviously, as we all remember, lost in that whopping 2015 final to the U.S. and since then have really fallen off. But in the past about year and a half, I think we've seen them start to climb back up and find their former form, if you will.
Because I think they're starting to play outside of Japan. I think that's their big thing, is the fact we saw a very insular Japan for a very long time, and Japanese players played in the Japanese league, and that was it. And the last couple of years, I mean, mainly it's WSL. There's a few over in the NWSL, but it's mainly in the WSL. We're seeing Japanese players coming over and playing in a European league, and that is giving a different style, a different belief and that's why I think we're seeing a rise in Japan again.
Yeah, and to that point, Allie, I feel like you're totally right. And to dig into the history of that, it's like the Japanese league used to be of the equivalent to the other leagues, or the other leagues simply didn't exist. There were moments when the Japanese league existed and the U.S. didn't have a league here, right? So the U.S. players were actually going elsewhere. And since then, they have been insular as these other leagues have been growing, and their Japanese league hasn't grown at the same pace. Nope. And this is what we're talking about when it comes to development of players. And the correction was that they're starting to send players outside to develop.
Or they're making it a requirement.
I was going to say, it's the reverse Jill Ellis rule.
It is, yeah. And it's working for them.
I have found Japan so boring to watch in recent years.
Look who's a negative Nancy now.
It's weird because I've found, like, especially for WSL players, Japanese players in their isolation are phenomenal to watch, and they're some of the most exciting. I'm on about Irabuchi, who is currently at Tottenham, Yui Hasegawa, who's at City, the two ones we've got at West Ham with Risa, and so they've been amazing to watch in isolation, but Japan as a nation, when they get together, is some of the slowest, most boring football I've ever watched.
Allie.
And I can't.
I don't even know what to say to that. I disagree. I don't think that they play slowly. I think they work the ball around in a different way than like a Spanish team does. They play possession based, but it's not in the, side. It's not in the small triangles. It's in the side to side, and they're very technically gifted players. And there's a lot more, I guess, individual talent, and they play a very technical style. I have to say,
I've watched them play like a few times. I played England recently, and then I watched the She Believes, and I was just like, this is really slow. It's really slow.
We have to talk about their She Believes performance.
Yes.
I feel like that's a really good place to start here, because first game out the gates, they lose to Japan, or I'm sorry, they lose to Brazil 1-0. They lost to the US 1-0, and then they beat Canada 3-0, but Canada at that point, frankly, just wanted to go home. So I don't think that we can even take that in.
We can't take that into consideration. Canada didn't care. Canada were done.
Now, I think that those two results are really telling, because we're not going to be the ones to underestimate Brazil. We've talked at length about how incredible we think Brazil are, but it's a 1-0 scoreline. They can keep low goals against, but they could not put goals away. I stuck my neck out during the Olympics, and I said that was Japan. That was Japan's moment to show the international stage that they're the back, and the way they're going to do that is by scoring. And Iwabuchi was going to get the golden boot. Now, she scored 1 goal that entire tournament, but she did score. And I think it was like 1 of 2 goals that Japan scored in the entire tournament.
And you give me stick for backing Iceland in the She Believes. I swear.
But I think that we are not to beat a dead horse, but we really have to talk about where their goals are coming from, because they are of the most organized defensively, possibly in this tournament, but you can't advance if you can't score. And Allie, you mentioned Iwabuchi, you mentioned Hasegawa. Those are 2 incredible stars. Endo. Is that enough for their goals?
You would think, but no.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, those are 3 players who can really put away goals, and yet somehow Japan as a team aren't able to create the opportunities for them to do so.
As the thing, I don't think they can get the ball forward. They are so defensively strong, and they are, but it's passing it back and forth with their defenders. They're not pinging balls forward. They're not getting their balls. They've got a non-existent midfield. Let's be honest. The Japanese team is very much defenders, forwards. They've got no midfield, which means that they haven't got that link. We talk about sixes all the time. We talk about number 6s all the time. They haven't got one. And that's their biggest weakness.
The thing about the Japan team, though, is that, like, look, especially in this conversation, it's not looking good. Like, no, it doesn't sound like any of us think that they're going to advance. However, I do think that maybe the hardest thing for them to do is to play against a team like Canada. In other words, the more physical the team, the harder it becomes for Japan, because they're not a physical team. And then you look at the list of teams here that they have. Spain, they don't want to play that physical. They want to play possession. That'll be a possession versus possession game, right? Zambia, they're not going to play that physical. The only physical team that they might come up against is Costa Rica. You think Zambia are going to play physical?
Zambia are one of the most physical teams. Like, what are you on about? See, Crystal agrees with me. This is why we have Crystal on, because Crystal agrees with me. Like, no. Zambia are physical.
Tell me what game you watched and you saw them play physical.
Any of them. Anything in the African Cup, man. Like, specifically when they were playing Togo and they beat them 4-1. They are a force to be reckoned with.
Well, I guess we're gonna see. I'm getting the vibe from both of you that you don't think Japan are going to make it out of this group.
No, I don't think so.
Say it louder. Stand behind it, both of you. You both mumbled those no's.
I would be impressed if they do, but I can't see how.
Look, they're a really big question mark. We've said it for a long time. They're climbing back, but they're climbing back slowly. And I think that we really nailed it. Everything here will hinge on their goal scoring ability. And if they can tuck some goals away, I think that they have a good chance of advancing. And if they can't, they absolutely will not. They will not advance in this group on ties whatsoever. Let's go to Zambia, the team that you both say play incredibly physical.
They do.
Let's talk about this fourth and final team. Listen, Zambia are ranked 77th in the FIFA standings. That is very different from the 7, 11, and 36 that they're playing. Yeah. Do you think that that's reasonable? Because we're talking about Costa Rica-Zambia matchup being a really pretty equal matchup. So do you feel like that is a little bit low considering what you've seen from them? Would you place them equal to Costa Rica?
Yeah, I would. I genuinely would. I honestly think the reason Costa Rica are so high is because they play in the CONCACAF. And that, therefore they play more visible teams more often. As I said before, and it's to our own fault, we know nothing about African football. The only reason I know about South Africa is because South Africans play in other leagues. And you've got Janine van der Dijk, and I'm sure we'll talk about South Africa, who plays in Scotland and stuff like that. You've got players that play in different leagues around the world. So that's why we know nothing about African football. So I honestly would say that in the teams that we've got here, Costa Rica and Zambia would be on a level pegging.
Yes, I totally agree. We don't know enough about the African countries, and this is partly why the World Cup is so exciting, in the same way that, Barbara Banda burst onto the scene in the Olympics and nobody had rated this player, and she was a standout. And I think a lot of that is going to happen again here in the World Cup with all of the African nations that are in it. Part of it is our fault, is our detriment, and part of it is investment from the federations. These teams don't have the money to travel outside of Africa, and so they haven't played a European team that much, if at all. They haven't played an American team. They haven't played an Asian team. They can't travel that far, and that is federation. And hopefully that will continue to grow, and we'll continue to see more from these nations. I am so excited to see Barbara Banda play on an international stage again. This woman is unreal, you guys. She has 22 goals in 10 caps with Zambia.
She is phenomenal and currently plays in China, but I wouldn't be surprised if this World Cup breaks her out to go play in a European league. Or
I was shocked she didn't after the Olympics, to be honest.
Yeah, you'd think she'd get picked up.
I was positive that was going to happen after the Olympics. I was like, somebody in the WSL is about to pick this girl up. She is absolutely, her talent is unreal. Look, Zambia haven't had a lot of, like we just mentioned, games outside of the African nations in the lead up, but they do have 2 friendlies with Germany and Ireland as their final 2 games leading into the World Cup. I think that'll tell us all we need to know about this team.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see them take on a European squad. I mean, away from the World Cup, what I would love for us to do, a couple of European, maybe a US, do during the friendlies, do a tour around some African nations. It would be great to spotlight that, and then you can guarantee their federation would give money. You're telling me that if you can get an Alex Morgan to go play a Zambia, that the Zambian federation wouldn't give money.
Was Banda able to play in that?
Yeah, this is the big thing. So we're seeing it with more and more African players. Is she was unable to play in the African Nations Cup because her testosterone levels were considered too high, so she wasn't considered female.
But she still traveled with them, right?
Yeah, she was there to be a support and stuff like that. So it's unfortunate we are starting to see that in African sports people where they're not female, and that's not true.
That's not true on many levels. She is a baddie. She's a badass. I think at the end of this, we should make a list of we each have a top 3 players to watch in the entire tournament, not just in groups. And quite honestly, she's on my top 3 in this entire tournament.
She's an absolute powerhouse.
All right, should we do the dreaded predictions here? I feel like I need a second to think about this.
Oh, I'm confident in mine.
I love that talking about them has kind of shifted what I think. Who wants to do their predictions first? Give us a 1, 2, 3, 4.
I don't mind. I'm
okay.
Ready to be loud, confident, and wrong. But I say Spain in 1, Zambia in 2, Japan in 3, Costa Rica in 4.
We have a little bit in common here. I'm going to go Spain 1, Japan 2, Zambia in 3, and I think it'll be a really close call on that one. But I think it'll be Spain 2, Zambia 3, and then Costa Rica will be 4. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I'm not too far. I say Spain 1, Zambia 2, Costa Rica 3, Japan 4.
Japan 4? You really don't think they're going to score at all, huh? My favorite thing that came out of this episode, of this conversation about this group, is that these are 4 teams from very different places in the world that play very different soccer, that all also play a style of soccer that's very stereotypical of that part of the world. And so it feels like just, you know, the way this place plays versus the way this region plays all mixed together. And we get to see different styles match up every single time. And that makes me really excited.
What that sounds like is a really long-winded way to say Ali was right. This group is a wild card.
I don't know if I'm still not going to go as far as wild card, but I'm really excited to watch it. All right, everybody. Stay tuned for Group D coming next week.
Which is the big one.
Let's preview what Group D... Yeah, well, you only think it's the big one because you know who's in it.
I do.
Allie, what is Group D?
God, I've lost it now. Hold on 1 second. I know England are in it. I know Haiti are in it. Denmark and China. So it is a exciting group.
Let's go. The Asia Cup champions versus the European champions. Plus 2 more. Who are not less important whatsoever. But I just don't have a title that they won that I can show. All right. For the Women's Soccer Show and Find Her Football Crossover, I've been Sarah.
I've been Ali.
I'm Crystal.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.